Hey, Emily. Thank you for joining the show.
Yeah, thank you. Super excited to be here.
Okay, so I heard some great news recently about your company, but before we dive into that, can you tell me a little bit more? For those who is not familiar with Corgi, what are you building, and most importantly, why?
Yeah, so Corgi is building the first insurance carrier that's actually built for startups. Usually, if a startup is looking for business insurance, whether it's for their office, for a term sheet, for an enterprise contract, they need to go through a broker who then goes through and is reselling other people's products. And as a broker, you don't really have control over how good the product you're selling is. You don't have as much control over the customer experience. And when we started, we actually started as an insurance broker. We were working with all the legacy carriers trying to make insurance, because we always thought hey, it's really hard to get insurance for startups. And the process for we were getting startup insurance at our last company, and it was just such a painful, long, complicated process. We were there's no way we can't make this easier. So when we started as a broker, we realized why we couldn't make it easier, and it's because you're stuck working with these big legacy companies who are so big and so regulated that they no longer care at all about the consumer experience. So we set out to actually be the full stack, fully verticalized all the way down, and be the carrier, the person who actually holds the risk, who writes the policies, who prices the policies. And by controlling the end-to-end process, we're able to just provide a better experience. We can give people instant quotes for things that they would not be able to get anywhere else on the market. And we can usually do it for a better price too, because there's no middlemen. So you just go directly to the source to get your insurance policies. So yeah, last week we just announced our fundraise and the launch of this. Yeah, thank you. We raised $108 million as part of our seed and Series A, and that went towards launching the startup line, which is about a year in the making. But yeah, we're just very excited to have it out, and the feedback from it so far has been really, really good. I did not expect the amount of inbound and the amount of people reaching out saying oh my gosh, this almost feels too good to be true. Why is this
That's
so easy?
That's a good problem to have,
yeah,
though.
It's a really good problem to have.
And yeah, you just came out of stealth with 100 million raised, which is so rare. I don't think I've ever heard of that, or maybe I just cannot remember that. But how did it all happen? And how long did the whole process of fundraising take?
So we've been in stealth for, I guess the last 2 years. And part of that is because we actually wanted to launch a very long time ago, but we've been just waiting on the regulatory approvals, because insurance is such a regulated space. And in order to especially go this full stack approach, we need to do a lot of actuarial studies. We need to get a lot of sign-offs from different regulatory parties, and we need to make sure that we have enough capital to pay out claims in case things happen. So just all of that took a lot longer than we thought it would. And I think this is why most insurtech companies don't go the route of being a full stack insurance carrier, because it's very regulated and it's very hard, and it takes a very long time. So we've been just working on that for the last year and a half, and working on getting all the approvals, getting everything in shape, creating the insurance policies and insurance products. And in late December, we finally got the stamp of approval saying hey, you're good to go with insurance carrier. So now we're the first insurance carrier for startups.
Woohoo! And meanwhile, while you were working on all of these regulated things, you were also fundraising. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because last year was very, I would say, special in terms of fundraising. We had a lot of mega rounds, and everything was around AI, and the companies that were in AI, they were pretty successful. It obviously depends in fundraising, but the companies that were not there, they had really hard times. So what is the secret of your success?
Yeah, I think AI in insurance is kind of a no-brainer, because if you think about what are the biggest words-based industries? You have legal is one of them, and there's a couple very big legal AI companies, and I think insurance is the other one, where you have dozens of pages of legal contracts where you need to interpret risk and then put a price on the risk. And there's so much like subjective work that needs to be done with evaluating why, like how we should price an insurance policy. And that's why like before LLMs, like it wouldn't have been possible to do what we're doing, because you need to make subjective calls on if someone says, hey, my company's doing like XYZ, you need to think, hey, like how does it increase like the different levers and like the different coverage, the risk of like different of these events happening. Yeah, and I think AI in insurance is just like it's something that like would have happened, like someone had to do it. And I think no one's done it yet because it's really hard to do. But it's just, insurance is 12% of the GDP. Like the economy would not run without insurance. And it's just something that everyone like needs, but it has always like had such like a terrible experience with that now like we have a way to actually make it better. Like there was actually like a change in technology and improvement in technology where we could make a meaningful improvement in how insurance works. So yeah, we're just really excited that we can do that.
Yeah, no, for sure. And like, can you say that like, was it hard for you like to convince investors that it's necessary, or just because it's such a no-brainer, it was relatively clear for them to get your vision?
I mean, it was definitely a process because we're going out to a lot of investors and just selling the vision of, hey, like this is very regulated, we're gonna get there, but like we need money to get there. And Nico can talk a little bit more about the nuances of the fundraising process. But no, we're very happy that a lot of like great investors were able to support us and kind of had the faith in us that we'd be able to figure out how to get it done. Because like no other tech company has figured out how to get it done. So so having them believe that we can do it, I think it's.
Yeah, but what do you think, if we're not talking about like AI or insurance specifically, what do you think make you successful as a company?
I think we like to take big bets, and we always try to do the most like ambitious thing possible and take a lot of shots at goal. And I think if you have enough smart people like making these big bets and executing on it, like even if only some of them work, you're gonna get a lot of good products out. And and we also work very hard. So that's also like a very well-known part of our culture. Even before we launched, like for the longest time, no one knew what we did, but people did know about us from our company culture because we work 7 days a week, like fully in person, and and I think, at least in our case, I think that's what it takes to make a big company in this space, because it's just a really big problem that's very hard to solve. And if we don't put in like 110% effort, I think it's hard to meaningfully like move the needle, because it is really hard.
Yeah, no, for sure. No, I love that. Hardworking, big bets, in person. But can you name like one particular sphere that is like so great? I don't know, viral marketing or like killer engineering team or like everything in one. Either something that like helped you to push it through, you know?
Yeah, I mean, on our philosophy on, I guess, like product and sales and everything is that if you, like, we just want to make sure that like we have a really good product. And I think that makes it easy to sell because it's just better. Like, you know, it doesn't take that much convincing to say, hey, like you can either fill out this form, it's super easy, you get your policy instantly, get like your proof of insurance to show like whatever party that needs insurance, or you can go through some like long complicated process and spend a lot more money. Like, I think we really like having a product that's able to like speak for itself, and we've put a lot of work and a lot of money into being able to offer that product because it was difficult. Like, it took a long time to get to the place where we could actually offer a superior product as opposed to like the other things on the market.
Yeah, and you know, just looking at your logo or at your name, it's hard to understand what the company does because it's called Corgi. So why Corgi?
I think as an insurance company, people think of insurance as this very like boring, difficult thing. And we just want to make it like fun and easy. And I think like a lot of these legacy insurance companies, they had to come up with these like wacky mascots. Like there's the Limu Emu, there's the Geico Gecko, there's Jake from State Farm, like there's like a caveman from Geico too, I think. And I think having just a fun brand helps a lot with an insurance where it's kind of like default, just regulated, kind of boring industry. And yeah, we just want to be memorable. We want to just take all the difficulty and all the annoying parts of insurance, just make everything easy.
How did it happen? You just were sitting on a couch and then, yeah, let's call it Corgi, or like, who was like, who made this decision?
So I just like corgis. I think they're very fun dogs. Yeah. I think she was taken over there so she wouldn't bother us. Trudy, come here. Trudy, come here. Trudy, come on.
Okay, maybe she will come. Yeah, hey, there she is. Hello. Okay, so this is the inspiration behind the name.
This is Trudy. She's our office corgi, and she is super cute, super amazing. The best mascot ever. We'll make her the most famous corgi ever. But yeah, I think it just goes along with our whole thesis of, hey, like insurance shouldn't be like this hard, and we just want to make things.
I know who works the most here in the company. Yeah, the most hardworking person. Well, the most hardworking dog. Oh, this is so cute. Oh, Trudy, feel free to stay with us through the whole process. But let's get back a little bit to how you started your entrepreneurship journey. And as far as I know, you did computer science at Stanford, and then you just decided to start your own company. So what happened? Like, have you always had this, itch to start something on your own?
Yeah, I've always thought startups were super cool. Like a fun fact is, on my 5th grade about me poster, they had us put what's your favorite TV show? Right. And I was like, my favorite TV show is Shark Tank.
Okay.
As a kid, most kids are like, I like SpongeBob. There's all the kid TV shows. But I've always just liked the concept of, hey, you can just go and do things. You can make a product that people will use, and then you can just grow it into a big company. I think since then I've always. I think I just always enjoy building things, making things, setting up orgs at companies. And when I was at Stanford, I think that pushed me even more into the tech scene, because everyone there is like, I'm gonna go do a tech company. Yeah. Before going to Stanford, I did not understand the ecosystem very much at all. I just knew startups were cool, and I wanted to do something in that direction. But there, I think Stanford also really they make it really easy to drop out, to just go and do your own thing.
Make it easy to drop out.
Yeah, because they actually have this program where you can take up to 8 quarters of leave before you're officially dropped out. So you can take a bunch of time to validate that hey, whatever you're doing is working, and if it doesn't work, you can just go back. So I think they remove a lot of the friction for encouraging people to do that. So my junior year at Stanford, I was working on a project with Nico for a while, and decided, hey, now's the time. We're gonna go and do this full time. And I think you really do need to put your full attention to something if you're working on a project. I don't think being a student and also running a company at the same time, you can do it, but I think it's if you're not fully invested in something. This is also part of why we do our 7 days, because you just need to be fully invested in something in order to make it work and to make it big. So yeah, at that point we started our last company and learned a lot of stuff through running it. And now when when ChatGPT 3.5 came out, we realized, wow, there's a big, actually, innovation in technology and in what we're able to do with tech. And we're thinking, oh, like, what's like the most relevant industry that this could be applied to? And insurance was the one, it's like an obvious answer, yeah. Because I had to do the insurance for my last company. It was just so annoying.
But the first company was totally different, right? It was about gaming.
It was a gaming company.
What happened with it?
So we started off as a social media app. We got a bunch of users on our social media app.
That's what I heard.
And the company was doing really well. And the social media app, we were at a point where we're like, okay, we need to figure out how to make money. So then we realized that it's a lot easier to make money in gaming than in a social media app. So we pivoted into gaming. And we started off making games, playing around there, and then moved towards just being a game publisher and rolling out games and game studios, mostly in the kids game space. Mm-hmm. So the company's still around. They're doing well. They have a lot of people working there. But yeah, Nico and I ended up working. Yeah, I think we just couldn't miss the opportunity to make a generational company with Corgi.
That's so great. And so, as we can tell, so you started the second company with the same co-founder. It's clearly that you guys just probably like working together, but in your opinion, what is important, in this union? How do you find, a lot of people are looking for their co-founder. Mm-hmm. What's your secret sauce?
Yeah, I think we have very complementary skill sets. Mm-hmm. He does a lot of the very big picture, coming up with the vision, knowing this is the right direction to go. And I'm pretty good at figuring out how to get things done. So you can throw a big complicated problem at me and I'll figure out how to get it done. And I think that works very well, because if you had two of me, then I feel we might be just going down some rabbit. This is I guess something that I've had to learn over the last couple of years is I used to get very pigeonholed into, I'm working on this thing, I need to figure this out, and then just not being able to see big picture enough. Yeah. So yeah, I think we complement each other's skill sets very well that way. And I think we also have similar values in terms of, hey, we just want to work hard and get things done, and this is a lot of fun, so we should just do it.
How do you go through conflict situations?
We argue over a lot of things, but I think we are we're both very practical. Mm-hmm. And we're both relatively we're just both very I think reasonable and practical. So if something makes more sense, we're okay, we'll try that. If it doesn't work, we'll do this other thing.
Okay, no fight involved.
Yeah, yeah. I think just moving forward and getting more things done is more important than making the perfect decision on every single tiny thing. Yeah. So it's very much let's just make a decision, move on. If it doesn't work, then we can pivot. We can do it a different way. But we just need to get going. We just need to get things done.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I also want to dive deeper in your kind of team culture. Mm-hmm. And nowadays, especially after COVID, a lot of companies are remote. Mm-hmm. And you are going really hard on in person. Mm-hmm. Why? Let's start with that.
Yeah, and I think there are a lot of good remote companies too. But I think the problem that we're solving is just a really big, really hard problem. And I think in order to properly solve it and to make a big company in this space, I think we just need to work harder than everyone else. Because I think a lot of being in person allows you to come up with more ideas, be more creative, and it helps you solve problems faster because you're all in the same room. I can say hey, can you look at this? What's going on here? Let's get this updated. And that's just something that's really hard to do if you're not in person. And yeah, everyone we hire here, they working. We hire people who like the culture and want to work in person and just really want to be immersed in just something that's very ambitious and moving very fast. So I think that's a big part of our just cultural values as a team, and we just want to make sure that everyone's very aligned.
Okay, so yeah, so it's clear that like in person is better for solving big problems. But you work 7 days a week. Can you please explain that to me? How is it even possible?
I don't know. I've always been working all the time. Like even before Corgi, like we've always worked 7 days a week. Okay. It was just less of like a publicized thing. It was just default like, hey, like we want to get this thing done, so we might as well like just work to get it done. And I think we really just do enjoy what we're doing. So like whenever I think like, oh, like do I want to go like watch a movie or do I want to like get this other thing shipped? I'm like, oh, like I'll like go get this other. I generally think it's fun. Like I enjoy doing what we're doing.
It's fun to work 7 days a week.
Yeah, like it doesn't even feel like work. It just feels like, hey, like I get like people gave us like a lot of funding to like build a really cool product. Like we should just do it.
No, and this is true. We're recording right now on Saturday and the whole team is here, so I can confirm. But one thing is founder's vision, right? And that you are so, like kind of like inspired, and you want to build, you want to get things done. But what about like your employees? Because like some of them, they have their personal lives. So how do you convince them to work so hard?
I think it's just about working on solving like a very big, important problem. And then seeing that we're actually like making progress towards solving it. I think if it feels like we're like super stuck, like what we're doing isn't working at all, like it's easy for people to get demotivated. But I think we've been just like growing a lot in the right direction, like getting things done. And I think people see that like, hey, like this is going to work. And I think people like being a part of something that's like a rocket ship that's working. So yeah, we also have a lot of like ex-founders on the team as well. So people who have been used to the startup grind.
Yeah, but what about burnout? I mean, I've talked to one of my friends recently. He's also a founder, and he said that yes, you can do it for a certain amount of time, but then there are cycles, and there will be a cycle when you'll be completely exhausted and burned out. So what's your thoughts about that? What are your thoughts?
I think the solution to burnout, and this is actually something that YC teaches during the YC batch. Okay. Like, burnout isn't from working too hard, it's from working too hard and having whatever you're doing not working. So if you feel like you're like spending a lot of time and working and you're not going anywhere, that's when you start feeling burnout. But if you're working and you're working really hard and whatever you're doing, like you're making it work, then you don't feel very burned out. And kind of like on the flip side, like if whatever you're doing is not working and you need to find a way to fix it, not like going like, oh, I'm just gonna like take a 2-week vacation isn't gonna help you solve the problem of like how to make the thing work. So that's very. So I found that to be like very true, even like personally, of like burnout, where like when I just feel the most. I think when I feel the most burnt out is always when it feels like we're running up against a wall, like things aren't working. And we just need to, like I don't think there's another solution besides like you just need to make it work. Like if you make it work, then people are, I think, like reoriented and are, I think, back on track and knowing that, hey, like whatever, like all the effort they're putting in is actually like resulting in something. And I think that's something that's very important.
But what if it doesn't? What if it's not working? You just keep pushing.
You need to figure out to make it work. I think that's the only way to solve burnout as an issue, is you need to figure out to make it work. Sometimes like individual people, they might be burned out because like maybe they're not working on the right thing that like aligns the best with their skill set. So then they need to be like moved onto a different project or moved to like working on like something else. So there's a lot of different levels of like where burnout can occur. And obviously like we're always like learning a lot about, hey, like how do we better lead the team and how do we make sure everyone's like excited to like come into work and to like get things done. And as we scale, like we need to figure out like, hey, like how does that look as we scale, as we become like a 200, 300, 400 person company? Like is like the 7 days a week all the time sustainable? I don't know, but at least for our core team, like that's what we do, and I think that's a very core part of our culture. I think it's a reason for why we're able to move very quickly and get things done.
I think another reason is Corgi. Having Corgi helps you with burnout.
Yeah, having a Trudy is like an emotional support animal.
No, for sure. And you mentioned that like this one of the lessons that you learned going through Y Combinator. Any other great lessons that you found really helpful there?
Yeah, I think the biggest takeaway from YC is they really pushed us to like think bigger and think about things from first principles. Like I remember during our like office hours when we were starting, we were like, oh, like we can't really improve the experience that much because these carriers like they make us fax them documents. Like this is terrible. How are we gonna like make a super like sleek, smooth user experience if it takes so long to get someone like their product back? And they've been very like encouraging in like encouraging us to just swing for the fences, to just like do the harder thing. And I think they just give good advice in general. I think because a lot of like all the people in YC, a lot of them are like ex-founders, they've been working with so many companies, they've seen what works, they've also seen like what doesn't work. So it's just always a good sounding board for things. But nothing but good things to say about YC.
Yeah, endless stories of probably motivation, inspiration, and like probably healthy competition when you see how other companies also are competitive. Probably it keeps inspiring you and pushing harder and harder. But another thing I wanted to ask you is, I'm a big female founders advocate and in general advocate of women in tech. And what I normally get that there are two different categories of female founders. One is like, oh, I'm a female founder and life is so much more difficult for me, or I'm a female founder and this is my superpower. So which camp are you in?
I don't know. I like don't think about it as like a very material part of like being a founder. Like I'm a founder. I'm like building a company. I don't really think of myself as like, oh, like either I'm a female founder, and because I'm a female founder, then things are either like so much harder or like so much easier for me. I think I just put like being a founder first, and like you just need to get things done. Like I don't really care like what I am.
Actually, a good point. So this philosophy that like, do you believe that, for example, it's harder for female founders to get funding, or do you think that this is not the key and we should stop like categorizing things and just think about like, okay, this is just a company and this is a founder and that's how we look at this?
I think like statistically it has female founders I think do get less funding.
That's true.
And I think I also get the benefit. I'm not like a solo female founder as well. But it's definitely something where there's like, if there are just more female founders in the ecosystem, it becomes more of like a norm instead of being a like anomaly for there to be like a female founder. And I think it's getting there. Like I see a lot more like good female founders, and their companies do awesome. So
that's true. But have you ever felt somehow limited? Let's put it this way, because you are a female founder, or not really?
Like I personally don't feel like I've ever been like discriminated against for being a female founder. Maybe I think our investors are great and they don't care about that type of stuff. But like personally, I haven't felt like too impacted like one way or another by being a female founder. I think like how I think about it is like we just need to like get things done and everything else is a distraction. That's
you're right as well. Yeah, and I agree with you in some ways. And another thing I wanted to ask you about big bets again. You mentioned you liked doing big bets, and I saw that you once had a massive billboard that you paid like almost $1 million for, saying like, go work for us for engineers.
No, that was AI.
That was not true.
No, that was I think one of our interns posted that as a joke. It was I think she like made it on Gemini or something, and a lot of people thought it was real. It had a like little Gemini.
It was very real, yeah.
At the bottom, but yeah, I think it was like a funny thing that she was posting.
But there were some campaigns for sure, like hiring campaigns that you launched in San Francisco. So in general, why is it so important? And like, for example, how does hiring great engineers or all other workers will help you, to prove this ROI and to move the company forward? How do you look at this? Like, do you even invest in this process a lot?
We, I guess in terms of just doing big campaigns and just going big. Yeah, as part of our launch, we actually, I don't know if you noticed, but we put up a bunch of flyers around San Francisco. We tried to put up a flyer on every single post that we're allowed to put up a flyer on in SF. So we put up.
We are allowed to.
We're allowed to put up. There's a couple restricted historical lit posts in SF. And there's rules around it needs to be 11 inches and you need to have a posting date. There's a lot of rules I have to follow, but we posted a lot of flyers around. I think it's just it's good for having people pay attention. And I think it just follows our company thesis as a whole of just go big or go home. If we want to do something, we're gonna do it right. And yeah, I think it helps a lot in all different parts of whether it's sales, whether it's marketing, whether it's hiring. We just want to be fun and creative and just.
Yeah, love that. I think this is the way to go for sure. You got to stand out, especially right now, in this AI era. But you don't drink alcohol. Why?
I don't know. I just don't really see a point in it personally. I don't really like the taste of alcohol either. It's not I've never drank before, but I think just more recently I've been just very locked in, focused on work and getting things done, and I think going out and drinking is a little bit of a distraction from that. Usually, if I were in more of a sales and marketing role, I think part of my job would be to go out to take people out to bars and do that. I know a lot of people on our sales team do, but I think for what I need to do, which is figure out how to solve these really complicated things, I just need to be very focused.
Clear mind. Yeah. And you don't drink coffee as well.
Yeah, I try to avoid coffee because I want my baseline to not be dependent on coffee. But if I have something really big that I need to get done, I will go get a
7 cups, please.
And then that makes me super productive for a little bit. But I really save it for if I really need to.
Okay. What do you do in your free time? Except working, obviously. I got it.
Well, most of the time, we do a lot of work, and I think in terms of recreational fun stuff, we try to do things with the team. So there's this one restaurant we really like called Taco in the marina that we always take people to. Or the people who are around the office around Christmas, we all drove down to LA together. And we went to the desert and camped there for a night, and then we drove back up. So yeah, we try to do fun things with the team, and just I think people work a lot, and I think in order to be their best, I think just mixing in some just having it be fun and having people feel part of the team is.
And you go to the gym together.
Yeah, and we go to the gym together.
This is a good thing. Healthy lifestyle, that's important. And now I have a few questions for you, not questions, but let's call it finish the sentence. So I'd read the sentence and you finish it. Ready? No stress. So most startups fail because?
I think because they give up too early.
Give up too early. That's fair. Growth doesn't come from working harder. It comes from
working hard in the right direction. I think you have to work hard regardless. I don't think you can grow if you don't work hard.
If I had $10,000 to grow a startup today, I would.
I think do some type of creative growth hack that's not just traditional marketing. Some really flashy shirts and hand them out to people and do the we like doing the flyer.
$1 million. That is AI made. Yeah. Okay. The fastest way to kill momentum is?
Kill momentum. I think if you I think if you just stop, like you just need to keep going. Like I think if you have momentum, you have to keep
Don't
going.
stop.
Don't stop. Yeah.
So basically, yeah, the fastest way to kill momentum is stopping, right? Okay, and the last one. Founders should spend way less time on and more time on.
I think founders should spend less time worrying about like marketing and optics and a lot of this stuff, and just spend more time on making sure that like their product is good. And I think once you have a good product, everything kind of follows from there.
But if you have a good product that no one knows about?
But I think the product always like comes first. So I think sometimes it's hard to like, well, I think you can market something and then you get the feedback on like how to improve your product, but I think you need to get something like decent out. I think just like getting to market is more important than, I guess maybe another way to think about it is like it's more important to like get to market than to like try to perfect everything and then launch and then realize that, hey, like that's not what people want.
That's for sure. Your personal wish or professional one for this year?
I think we just want to grow a lot. We want the startup line to be a success because we think it's like a very material improvement in like how like the status quo of like what startups are able to like find on the market. And yeah, we just want to grow that as big as possible. We want Corgi to be the go-to insurance provider for all startups.
Yoo-hoo! Amazing, thank you. Yeah, thank you. High five. Woo! Okay, hey Nico.
Hi.
Thank you for joining us as well.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
Yeah, I have a few questions for you. And oh my God, Trudy is so cute right now. I just cannot stand it. So, the first question is about how to find a great co-founder. So you've started 2 companies with Emily. What do you think is important for being excellent co-founders for each other?
I think a lot of times people kind of look for opposite skill sets or different skill sets, and actually I don't necessarily think that's that important. Emily and I were both engineers actually before so we had pretty similar skill sets. I think the most important thing is you need someone where in like sports, if you're someone's teammate for a long time, you can kind of pass them the ball without looking. It's a no-look pass, and they can catch it. They can kind of coordinate without you needing to micromanage or check in on every little thing. And I think that kind of the ability to have no-look passes is actually more important than maybe different skill sets. So most of the co-founder dynamics that I've seen work really well are people that have known each other for quite some time. Which is why I think the Collisons work really well at Stripe and things like that. So, I think if you're like going out blind and trying to find someone that you might not know so well and you don't trust so well and start a company with them, that can oftentimes be pretty difficult.
Passing the ball without looking is a very good quote. But you know that when I asked Emily the same question, she said it's because we're different.
Maybe. I mean, we ended up doing different things, but I think if you went back in time a couple years ago, our starting skill sets weren't necessarily so different. So over time, I think that's kind of diverged, where Emily's become more focused on operational things, and I've become more focused on kind of strategic and technical.
Exactly what she said, right?
But I think if you like look back in time in 2020, probably our skill sets were not that different and just weren't that differentiated yet.
I got it. And first of all, congratulations with your public launch and amazing fundraising use. And I think you guys are doing like exceptionally great. And last year was very difficult for some startups because there were a lot of mega rounds and a lot of like investment in AI, and it was like much harder for all other companies. And so here we're in 2026, and you just like kick off this year with this crazy news, raising like $108 million. So can you tell us a little bit more about what did you do to make this fundraising so successful?
Yeah, I always never try to celebrate fundraising. I think think revenue and ultimately profit is the things that people should celebrate most of all. But in our case, we were going into, and we are in, one of the most regulated areas of the economy, a little more regulated than banking, but maybe less regulated than like utilities, but very, very regulated, very capital intensive. For us to even get started, we had to acquire $35 million of licensing, and for us to launch our main product line, we had to put a pretty similar amount of money into regulatory capital. So I think in our case, the fundraising journey wasn't necessarily easy. It was kind of always a process, but it was something that we had to do. Otherwise, we weren't able to go into this kind of category of the economy. So I think with fundraising, the key is that you need to have a really compelling and concrete use of the money. Probably fundamentals matter a little bit less in the early stages than being able to paint a picture that is reasonable and is likely to happen of how you'll become a very, very big company and an important company. And I think in general, you shouldn't be doing a startup if you don't want a big and important company, but being able to articulate that is really important, not just for investors, but for customers and team members, recruiting as well. But yeah, I mean, our fundraising wasn't, I think we have a great group of investors. Basically, we raised our pre-seed during YC, and all of those investors doubled and tripled down on us. And most of the money we raised was raised pre kind of revenue or revenue growth. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'm like the best guy at fundraising in the world to give advice, but I think just being able to be really clear with what your mission is, being very direct with how you think about building something important, and just repeating that again and again. I think that's kind of the key to closing customers, to fundraising, to recruiting, to anything important, really.
Do you think any personal features of character matter? Because you mentioned that most of your investors invested in you pre-revenue, right? So why, like, how did they get this vision, you know?
Well, you'd probably need to ask them that more than me. But I'm not totally privy to all of their decision making. But I think that something I always tell my investors is our team in general is amazing. We have, I think, the hardest working team in San Francisco. 7 days a week. I mean, it's a Saturday now, and the office is buzzing with people, as it normally is. And I think the key is that even when things aren't going well, even when there are challenges, even when things are uncertain or we're not 100% sure of which approach to take, the commitment that I try to make to our investors is that we will be and are the hardest working team in all of San Francisco, and ideally the hardest working company that there is in general. And I think that that's something that they appreciate. That's something that they can see as true. For the first year and a half of the company, I wasn't taking a salary. I live in the office, all of those sort of things. And I think the dedication of our team is second to none. Of our first 30 employees, roughly 20 of them got Corgi tattoos. And
Corgi tattoos?
Yeah.
Do you have one?
No. Don't. And I try not to encourage it too much. But yeah, we have beds in the office. And I think just working hard and being very dedicated to the mission and being very transparent is important. But as to what our investors saw in us in particular, I think they're very smart people. They're very capable. They've invested in a lot of great companies, and perhaps they got the feeling that we could kind of follow in the footsteps of the great companies that came before us. But I'm not sure exactly what it was that led to them investing.
How hard was it to get to Y Combinator?
That one was. I don't think that was too hard.
Was it your first attempt?
Yeah, it was our first attempt. Yeah, I mean, we'd done a company before that worked pretty well, so I don't think it. And I think when we applied, it was when Gary was just taking over, and Gary's done an amazing job with YC. At the time, the number one question that we got was like, why are you doing YC? Why are you giving up 7%? And no one asks that anymore, which I think kind of exemplifies that, like, YC as a brand and as an organization and institution has created such enormous value and has really kind of, I think, grown in many ways over the past year and a half that we've been in it. Oh, yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, YC I think is the best, group of investors and operators that exist in San Francisco. I don't think we'd have a company without YC. I don't think we'd have been able to get everything together to get to the point where we're at now. Especially thanks to Jared Friedman. I think he's one of our company's biggest supporters. And everyone on the team loves and admires him very much. But yeah, I don't know if I have the most tips or anything on how to get into YC. I don't think our application was that good. We didn't have any revenue when we applied. The idea was pretty different than what we ended up doing. But I can say that YC saved our company and routed us in the right direction. And I very much encourage any entrepreneur who wants to build something actually big to apply and do YC.
Yeah, what would you, I know maybe it's hard, but what would you recommend to other companies who are dreaming about getting accepted into Y Combinator to do or to include in the application, or just in general to focus on based on your experience?
Yeah, I think instead of focusing on how to get into YC or how to raise money or whatever, people should just think what's the biggest possible company that I could build? What's the most important thing that I could be doing with my life? And maybe it's not building a company, maybe it's doing a nonprofit, maybe it's joining a company that is really admirable and cool. Maybe it's, I don't know, rescuing stray dogs. Whatever people think is the most ambitious or interesting thing that they could be doing with their lives, they should probably be doing that. And I don't think the institutionalization of starting companies and then there's these 5 or 6 steps you need to go through in order to have a hot startup. I'm not really a fan of that. I think that people should just think kind of from first principles. What's the most ambitious thing I can do with my life? How do I do that? And in my case, I really like building companies. And I think that the key for me is I just kind of think what's the most ambitious or biggest possible company that I could be part of or make or create, and then I try to do that. And I think if you do that, then YC would be very lucky to have you as an entrepreneur. But even if YC doesn't take you, or even if you don't do YC, I think you can still build a really great company. Although I would highly recommend that everyone that is able to does YC.
Mm-hmm. What do you think makes your company successful?
Well, I think the mission is just getting started, so I don't want to call ourselves a success yet. But I think it comes down, everything is downstream of culture, and I think we have one of the best cultures of any startup. We work the hardest, we work the longest hours. Everyone here in life in general is about sacrificing and trade-offs, and everyone here is making sacrifices and trade-offs. And I think kind of the social contract that everyone that's part of Corgi kind of signs is that they're going to work super hard, they're going to work their ass off, but they're going to be doing the most ambitious things they could possibly be doing with their time. They're going to make a ton of money when the company works out. Enough that they don't need to work again if they don't want to. But I think everyone here loves to work. And there's no work-life balance here. There's work and there's life, and it blends together, and that's it. And you're here 7 days a week, and you're going to work hard, but you're working on something that's important. And I think in 5 or 10 years, when you look back, you won't be exactly crying in your Ferrari. You'll be very happy in your Ferrari as you look back on the time that you spent with some of the smartest people in the world that are all kind of in the same boat. So an enormous number of our team consists of ex-founders. Most of us are ex-founders, I think, probably the numerical majority. And I think this collection of talent is really the only reason that we've managed to get to where we are. And I think that in terms of getting to the next stage, keeping the same bars of people as they come and join our company is the most important thing.
Yeah. Did you have people who you interviewed and when you mentioned like 7 days a week, they're like, what?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people think we're kidding or think it's satire.
Seriously.
Or they'll ask like, do you really work 7 days a week? But I think you know, if you're doing something important and if you want to be part of one of the fastest growing companies in the world and you want to actually do something big with your life and do the biggest possible thing, then I don't think you should, you know, working 6 days or 5 days, 4 days or 3 days or 2 days. Like, I don't know why you'd do that. You'd want to go all in. So if we're asking people to give a lot, I think we should ask people to give the most possible so that they in turn get the most possible.
Is the idea to make a lot of sacrifices right now, let's say for the next like 3-5 years, so then you just can travel around the world and do nothing?
I mean, I have enough. My last company worked out okay. I think, you know, I could be doing that now if I wanted to, but I personally just really want to do big things and important things. I think that the problem that we're solving is really important. Financial infrastructure is something that is like totally broken and bad right now, and maybe, you know, insurance isn't the most exciting thing in the world, but it is 12% of the GDP. Is something that every single business needs to purchase and person needs to purchase. And right now it just sucks. It's a terrible experience. It doesn't pay out. It's not nice to work with. And by making faster, better, and ultimately cheaper insurance, what we can do is we can make every business and person in the US a little more protected and waste people's time a lot less. And it's basically a smaller tax on the entire US economy if we accomplish our mission. And I think that that's something that's very ambitious. You know, if we do our job, we can be more impactful than like the government is in terms of helping the economy. And right now we're very small relatively to, you know, compared to where we want to be. But you know, we admire the greats. We want to join them. I think we're working our hardest to do that. And yeah, I don't know. I think you know, kind of chilling out on a yacht doesn't really appeal to me personally.
No, yeah. I bet some people would argue here. What's your biggest wish for this year, personal or professional?
I mean, they're kind of the same thing. I'd like us to expand into a lot of different product lines. I want us to reach some pretty ambitious revenue goals. And I think more than just like this year, in general, I'd like us to you know, as a company to become an important part of the economy and to like improve and save people money and, you know, protect businesses and people a lot better than they are right now. So I would like us to take something that people hate, which is kind of, you know, highly regulated financial infrastructure entities, and to turn them into something that maybe people don't necessarily love, but people, you know, feel provides a real service and real value as opposed to just wasting their time and their money.
Cheers to big and ambitious goals. Thank you so much. High five. That's great.